Over the last 30 years, garden designer Butter Wakefield has transformed her West London home into a floral haven, bringing a touch of the English countryside to the city. Today on Homeworthy, she invites us inside her stunning Victorian villa for a tour. The interiors feature vibrant splashes of color, seamlessly reflecting the beauty of Butter's exquisite garden. After showing us her blooms of the season, Butter takes us back inside to set the table for a sumptuous lunch. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. By clicking the join button below, you not only support the production of these videos, you also gain access to exclusive content just for members. And today, members will get an inside look into Butter's fabulous conservatory with scenic views overlooking her gorgeous gardens.
Hi Homeworthy, I'm Butter Wakefield. Welcome to my home in West London. Please come in. Hi, Homeworthy. My name is Butter Wakefield and you're in my home in London, West London, Shepherd's Bush to be precise. I've lived here for almost 32 years. We bought the house when I was pregnant with our second son, Jack. And so I've lived here a long time. We bought it together when I was married to my English husband. He's now not my husband, but I'm still here, which is a blessing because I love it here. And all four children have been raised here, and it's rather a special spot for me, and the garden particularly. So this is my front hall. It's got this wonderful Cole & Son big leafy palm wallpaper, and below the dado rail it's got this sage and onion little green paint, which I'm absolutely wedded to. I think it's really fun. And then this big black and white linoleum floor. And I think the floor is the thing that started first and has remained. We've had various changes throughout the house, but the black and white has always been sort of the thread through the house. And it's kind of fun because it's a big format and it's easy to maintain, and it's hard wearing and bomb-proof, basically. And then up the stairs, I sort of carried on this, when my husband moved out, I sort of changed the stair carpet and found this really fun black and white stripy stair runner, and I painted the handrail shiny black. So, I just kind of made it really as black and white as I could. So this is kind of the hall, and here I've got some black and white floral botanicals, which I absolutely love. They're all different. They're antique, and it's really fun to view them as you go up and down the steps. So I rather love them. In this little space right here as you come in the hall, there are several clever things, I think. One, the floor mat, the size of the floor mat is extra oversized. So lots and lots of filthy feet can fit onto here, which is great. And then a radiator cover, I think, is always so useful. And I've got antique bowls and to put my, lots of stuff in. Tape measure, always tape measure. And then here I've got this lovely big antique mirror, which kind of bounces the light around. And a double set, two hanging lanterns, which I think is fun because typically you would have just had the one, wouldn't you? But a friend of mine, a designer friend of mine, Bertie Fortescue, said, no, let's have two here. It'll just elevate everything. I do notice there's a missing light bulb, which is really annoying. And then I found these incredible, they're wooden deer heads and antlers. I think the antlers are real, but the deer heads are wooden. I think they're Austrian. Really don't know, probably 18th century, maybe. And then I've got these wonderful yellow gilded plates by an artist called Freya. And when I light the candle in the evening, when I've got people for supper, it does reflect the light so beautifully. It's really, really fun. And she's so clever. And these are sort of running deers too, so the sort of deer theme kind of, continues. And then across here on the other side of the wall, which is nice, you can see in the reflections, are some rather colourful modern art. And this one, this big, expansive yellow, I was very reluctant to kind of get on board with the colour yellow. I really love this sort of bold, dark, sort of umbery yellow with a sort of flash of orange running through it. And then this is picked up by another artist called Sheeran. And they're both alive, and I love collecting artwork that from artists who are alive and well. So this is fun. So it kind of breaks up the green, adds color as you come in, and creates a sort of sense of fun, which I think is rather important. So this is my sort of hallway and upstairs, and so from here we'll go into the drawing room. So here we are in my drawing room, which is a lovely, big, gracious double drawing room. The house was built in the 1870s, and it's sort of late Victorian, early Edwardian. And what's really nice about this house particularly, is it has an east-west aspect. So my front garden at the front of the house is east-facing, and my rear garden at the back of the house is west-facing. So morning light and evening light. So I feel like I'm really blessed with the best aspect, particularly as I'm a garden designer, and aspect is really everything when you're designing a garden, and it's the first place you start. So maybe I should talk a little bit about myself. I'm an American, and I've lived here for something like 37 years or something. So most of my adult life I've lived in this country and not in America. But I grew up in a very small farm in Maryland, outside of Baltimore. And it was a very rural upbringing. We played in the barn and in the streams, and hardly ever saw, I hardly ever saw my parents in the summertime. It was blissful, bucolic joy. And we had ponies, and so we did sort of pony camp and a little bit of fox hunting, and so it was a marvelous upbringing. And then from there I went to university and ended up in New York, where I worked at Christie's. And when I was in New York working for Christie's, which I absolutely adored, it kind of saved me, Christie's, because it was, as a sort of farm girl, it was so full of eccentric, wonderful people. And of course, selling the most interesting, the best of the best, and it was not just pictures, but it was paintings and silver and rugs and jewels and furniture. So I got such an incredible exposure to very beautiful things, which has stayed with me forever, ever since. And then when I was living in New York, I met my English husband, and that is why I'm here still today. So that's a little bit of background. But it's been fun. When I arrived in this country, I started working at Colfax and Fowler, which really was a really lovely follow-on from Christie's, actually, because that was sort of the beautiful things. And then Colfax, of course, is interior design. So it helped me understand how to put a room together and how to choose colors that were complementary and contrasting, and taught me about scale and texture and color and form and composition, which of course has helped me hugely in my garden design business now. But there's more about the room itself. So the black and white theme continues. I've got, this is a dyed cow rug. It's not a real zebra. But the black and white ticking is Ian Mankin. And then the walls are a wonderful color. It's a Farron Ball color called Lamproom Grey, which kind of sets everything off so beautifully. And again, of course, more green and white. This is a fabric by Raoul for George Spencer, which I really love because it's so sort of bold and geometric. And the blinds are nice. I really love the sort of filtered light, and I like having them when it's really sunny, quite low. And it makes it all nice and cool in here in the summertime, so that's good. And then there's a lot of color. I love color. I've got these bold patterns here, for instance, and on the orange chair are all manual canvas, and those two chairs there are manual canvas. And what I love best about this room is having all this kind of bold and bright colors. I know it doesn't suit everyone, but for me, it's, as I said earlier, I really love color. And this gallery wall is an example of, you know, how I just kind of, all the colors I feel like are happy together and go. This is a very beautiful picture by a man called Erdley Knowles, who was sort of in the Bloomsbury set. And my ex-husband gave this to me when our first child, Zoe, was born. So it's a very special picture. And then I've just kind of added to it over the years. Every time I kind of finish a big project and I feel it's gone well, instead of saving my money, I might spend it on a bit of art, which I feel is lovely because it gives me pleasure every day and I can see it all the time. And it kind of reminds me that the hard work is worth, you know, it's worth all the blood and the sweat, sometimes the tears. So this is the sort of first half of the drawing room, and it's got a gas fire, which is great. So I sit here in the mornings and do my tapestry. I've got a really ugly light, but it is really good. And this is what I'm working on now, which is a lovely auricula pattern by Kay Fassett, who's fantastic. And these are both Kay Fassett vegetables, a cabbage and a cauliflower. And the thing about tapestry, I feel as a business owner quite a busy, stressful life, and having a minute to do tapestry kind of on Saturday morning really helps kind of settle me and calm my nerves and reset me for a happy kind of relaxed weekend. And these two cushions here are also, these are both Kay Fassett too. I seem to understand his colors. I do change some of them out though, I have to say. I make them even brighter than he does. So a bit crazy. Wafer has just joined us in the drawing room, and Wafer kind of really does understand that he's not really supposed to be up there, don't you? But because it's a film day, maybe it's okay. He's a border terrier. He's about 11 or 12 years old, and it's him and I. We live together here. So he is my bud, and I'd be lost without him. So, I mean, but really naughty. He's up there, just saying. So flowers, hugely important for me to be able to pick flowers. I grow orange colored tulips in the spring, specifically to bring in here and cut. And I love the color orange, in case that was unclear. And so orange and yellow and pink are three of my favorite flower combinations. So I like to put tulips together in those sort of rich tones to bring inside. But more about the room. I mean, this end of the room is kind of slightly more summery, and this end of the room is a little bit more wintry. Here's a great picture that a friend of mine, Kirsty Withers, painted, which I absolutely love. I mean, it's full of incredible purples and yellows, and she's got wonderful use of a palette knife, and her sense of creating a very beautiful landscape seems to be something that she does beautifully well. So that's one of hers, and as is this one above the fireplace. So this end of the drawing room is slightly more, it's more wintry somehow, we feel. It's got a real fireplace, which is lovely. And something that I love about this room are the shelves. I love shelves. I think shelves are a wonderful opportunity to put stuff on. I love collecting bits of china. As you can see, this is a rather comprehensive collection of pink luster, and I love a Staffordshire dog. So I've got lots of Staffordshire Spaniels about the place. There's another one hiding behind the orange lampshade. And my choice of color and my love of color has slowly developed over the years. And my love particularly for orange is probably a recent phenomenon, probably in the last 5 years. So I started my foray into my fascination with orange by painting the inside of the bookshelves orange first. And then slowly I've just added more orange as my sort of confidence and love for it has grown. So this is a very sweet slipper chair that I got from my friend Joanna Plant. And I covered this in this wonderful orange mohair. It's kind of a burnt orangey color. And then I put a rather lovely contrast fan edge on it in a sort of red color, which I think is really fun. And it's just a great little chair that you can pull up. I can pull it up over there if we need extra seating, or here. And then I've got these two puffs, one here and one there. And they are great for additional seating, you know, really lovely to sit by the fire. And I love them. They're terrific bits of extra furniture. Lots of the chairs in this room are old. That's an old chair, and this is an old chair. And the two in the other side of the drawing room are old. And I love mixing old and new. I think it makes a much more pleasing and interesting composition, furniture-wise. And you want to set out, you know, your seating areas so two people can sit comfortably and have a conversation, but so can six and then eight if you need to. And I think it's really nice to have tables nearby. And I love an ottoman, and it's again another surface to put things on. So this has got a lovely old antique tray, which is an ironwood tray. I think it's called ironwood, and a wedgwood plates. And I love having stacks of books and candles, and you know, I just like composing tabletop, you know, ottomans, for instance, and then just flowers, more flowers everywhere. So you can't really have too many. Again, I love to collect things. This is sea glass that I've collected over the years. I've got two big pots of them. We spend our summers on Cape Cod, and you know, I just love to, you know, comb the beaches and find sea glass. And there's another glass of it there, and it's always a good walk on the beach when I, you know, come home with a little handful of sea glass. The other thing that I want to talk about quickly before we leave the drawing room is the two lamps in the window. They're rather special. I found them in an antique shop on Great Island on Cape Cod, and they were there for a couple of years, and I thought, if they're there, if I go back and they're there, then I'm going to have to bring them home. So I packaged them up and shipped them home. Honestly, it costs more to ship them home than the lamps themselves, but I think this sort of mauvey orange glass is so particularly beautiful. And in the morning, when the sun kind of shines through it, it casts this amazing sort of mauvey orange glow across the drawing room, which is rather special. And then my friend Rossi Derug made these lampshades to go with. So yeah, one little added extra, which I think makes this sort of table kind of come to life. If I have to describe my style, my sense of style, I guess it's pretty clear that I would call myself a maximalist. I'm also particularly a color. I think I'm quite traditional though too. I know that there are a lot of colors in here, but it's quite a traditional setup here. You know, there's not a modern element to be found. So I'd say quite trad and full of color. And I love to layer things. I think that's what makes a room really interesting. And collecting things on your travels for your home, I think, is one of the nicest things you can do to bring the home to life. And I think it's the found things that you stumble upon in antique shops on your travels are the things that really are the most special. And so I do try to keep a beady eye out for all sorts of fun things. Like I have this little collection of Staffordshire cow creamers, which I'm absolutely mad about. And I've got, you know, a little herd of them. And I just think they're so sweet and charming, and it helps that they're also orange and cream. So they kind of amuse me. And then I love to put flowers in old jugs and pitchers and containers, because I think the container is as important as the flower arrangement. So this is a lovely old chintzware jug, and this is a really pretty old pink luster jug, which is very unusual. This size and this pattern is so unusual. So I was delighted when I stumbled upon that. So it just makes it, I think it makes the home interesting. And then this container here is a new potter who I discovered when I stayed in a lovely PR moment in Tyne, England, which is in the countryside in Oxfordshire, and he has incredible color. I think he uses color so beautifully. So there are 3 there on that table. There's 1 here full of these flowers, and then there's a little collection of them on my ottoman in here. And I think it's really nice to combine old and new, and I think I don't ever have any problems doing that. I think some people are like, oh gosh, it's a bit of a, and I just mix it all up. I think it's really fun, and it makes for a really interesting home. So I love that. So on we go to the kitchen. So on my way to the kitchen, there is a little downstairs loo, which I think might be something to take a little look at. So again, it's a tiny, tiny room, and I put a nice kind of toit de jouy style wallpaper in there. And then I just covered the walls as much as I could with pictures. So when you're in here, you've got something nice to look at. And again, an opportunity to have some shelves, and a cupboard which sort of hides the loo cleaner and the loo paper. And then shelves above, which I enjoy kind of fiddling about with. Again, more dogs. You can see my little collection here. And birds. I'm also really keen on birds. I do love birds. I love garden birds. I like feeding the birds. And my pa loved to feed the birds. And so I'm very keen. And then I have a little collection of nests that I found in my travels that have fallen on the ground always. I would never pluck one out of a tree. But I have some lovely old birds' nests up there too. So again, it's a real mixture of style and color and pattern and form. I've got some birds here, but then I've got some sort of ferns and a giraffe, and then a lovely, sweet little collection of dogs here, and some, so I think, whatever you want to put up. So it's kind of fun. Here I am in the kitchen, and please excuse the ugly dog crate and the pile of hideous things on top, but this is a home and it's part of it, and I thought I could move that, but I'm not going to because I can't be bothered. I don't have enough time. I was much more focused on the flowers for the table and the table itself. So this is kind of the beating heart of the home. It's probably the beating heart of every home, I imagine, but this one particularly, the black and white floor runs through from here and into the conservatory, which is over here. But the kitchen's always been such a happy place for us as a family, the 4 children. The black countertop also sort of mimics the black everywhere else. And when we bought the house, we didn't have enough money to put hanging cupboards above the countertop. So I just had the idea that I would just set 2 and cover the walls with black frame prints. So the black has been a theme that's kind of runs throughout. And I think I'm so pleased that it worked out that way, because I think it's so much nicer not to have the walls kind of overwhelmed with hanging cupboards. And it was very much the fashion then. Now it's all sort of all open shelves, isn't it? But it was very much the fashion to have big, clumpy, heavy cupboards above, but we couldn't afford them, so happy result. So lots of botanical prints on the walls in black frames. Some of them are literally just postcards. I think this one's a postcard. So anything that I could find that was floral in the early days, I would slap a black frame on and hang. And there's some butterflies and other bits and pieces. This is a particularly special bit of artwork by a friend of mine called Sarah Bowen, and it was a commission that I asked her to do for me. I said I wanted a bucolic scene of the countryside with some cows to remind me of home, and there it is. She's done it beautifully. So I get great joy from looking at that every day, and she chose the color of the flowers for me and put the figs in, all the sort of mauvey purples that I love. And then another shelf, more shelves. Here's my collection of Staffordshire dogs, which I am very partial to. I think they just look so sweet and cheery, and they just amuse me and kind of keep me company, if that's possible. So here we are, and people always say, oh my God, how do you clean all this with the grease? And you just take it all down and soap it down and put it back up again. So it's never bothered me, any of that. You just give it a clean. And I'm not fastidious about it all being immaculately clean anyway. I think, again, like the crate, it's all about living in a home and having it work for you as the homeowner. And this works for me. So I every now and then I think, oh, it's time to clean. So this is the cooker, and then of course my kitchen sink, which is a lovely big kitchen sink, looks onto the garden, which is a very happy place to spend time. As the mother of 4, there's been a lot of time spent at the kitchen sink. So it's nice to have a really beautiful view. And as a garden designer, I often think about the views looking from the inside out into the garden, and how important it is to create interesting viewports and sight lines and focus and focal points. So at the end of this run down my kitchen door, which this is kind of a fun door too, just by the way, it's a sort of barn door, which is really helpful when you have a dog. So it can be open, but he can, he stays in. But this is kind of the longest axis, and if you're standing at the front door, you can see all the way through and down the hall, across the garden and to the back of the wildflower meadow. So that's rather magical, I think. That's something that I care a lot about, is the view from the inside out, and try hard to create those magical moments for my clients as well. Kitchen table, just quite average, I'd say, but rather nice. It looks good laid and unlaid, and I've got this wonderful Penny Morrison stripe fabric on the benches. I had chairs here originally, but I found the backs of them got in the way and kind of created too much confusion on the sort of cleaner line. So this is better for me. I think some people don't like sitting on benches, but I don't mind. I'd much prefer to sit on a bench and not have a great big chair back in the way. So yeah, this is kind of where a lot of happy memories have been made, which is great. And then at the end, sort of asymmetrically, we've got these 2 rather dark painted units. The tall units in the kitchen are this sort of lovely red, kind of mahogany red color. This is a color called Arras by Little Green company. And then I wanted to kind of create some amusement by putting pink with it, red and pink. I think it's kind of a fun combination. And weirdly, this plant is the same, so he can. She's welcome to the party. And then below the black countertop here, the inside of the wine rack is pink as well. Again, just to kind of create a little lightness and amusement, and a combination. A sweet little picture up there, which I absolutely adore. It's just that red and pink again combination, which I think is so pretty, with a bit of green, my favorite thing in the whole world. So this is the kitchen, and it's been this way for a very long time. So these are the new additions, but it's been white and green and black for a long time. So bravely, I just quite recently painted these 2 things. So I'm very pleased. I think it adds a sort of richness to an otherwise rather more sort of clean look. The children were not at all convinced. They're like, "Mommy, don't do that." I'm like, no, I've got to change things sometimes. So I imagine you might wonder how on earth I got the name Butter. And it was given to me a long time ago by my father when I was a baby. I was round like a butterball. Fortunately, the ball bit dropped, but I've been butter ever since. And it's kind of a funny one. There was an awkward age when I was about 12, and I was like, please, no one call me Butter anymore. And, when you're so self-conscious, when you're just entering your teens. And I was riding with a really lovely magical trainer, and he said, to me when I said, would you mind calling me Elisa? And he was kind of the love of my life. I had the biggest crush on him. And he said, I'm not going to ever call you Elisa. I will only ever call you Butter. So you're just going to have to get used to that. So I just thought, well, okay, if it's good enough for him, then I'll hang on to it. And it's just followed me. There were moments when I got to Christie's in New York and I thought, maybe now I should be Elisa. But all it took was someone to call me Butter, and they're like, wait, that's your name? We want to call you Butter. So I have never really been able to shed it. But in many ways, there are not many of me. So I feel like it's kind of served me well in a way. I never have to say my surname, which is Wakefield. So I only ever have to say Butter. And Butter is actually even my business, Butter Wakefield Garden Design is my business name too. So that's how I got that name. As you can see, there's more of this lovely pottery by a man whose name I can't remember, but I will remember eventually. And lovely flowers. The table's not laid yet, but I think that might be something that we can do together once we've been in the garden. So we'll do that after that. So from the kitchen into the garden, 2 steps down, which is lovely, not too much. Again, my door, which I'm going to talk to you briefly about because I think it's rather special. It's a stable door, which I spoke about earlier. But what we did, which makes it rather lovely, is it was a bit of a small opening. You can see the door itself is quite small and it felt a bit diminutive. So we put a lovely big surround around it, a timber surround with lovely big generous moldings and sort of fluting. And then we put a bit of a lead flashing on the cap and painted it this lovely color. This is Farrow and Ball downpipe. So the whole exterior, the woodwork on the windows and doors and conservatory are all painted dark, which I really love. I don't really like white windows. I don't know why, but I prefer them dark, and I think this is a really nice color. So I have a small circular table here, which seats 6 comfortably. They're set for 4 right now. And here are some of my pelargoniums, which I've grown from cuttings. They love it outside, so as soon as it warms up and the fear of frost is over, they come outside. And then this is just an old urn of succulents, which I find quite amusing because they have these fabulous flowers, which I think are kind of crazy. And terracotta pots the whole way around on the terrace. I find that if you choose 1 or 2 different materials, both inside and out, but mostly outside, I think you have to be a little bit more controlled actually. So I've got terracotta, metal. This is old reclaimed York stone on the ground, which I think is very beautiful and pleasing and kind of timeless. And then the only kind of crazy colored thing are these wonderful old antique buckets, which I found. And they had all my tulips in them in the spring. And I've just sown in situ some zinnias here. So they're well underway. I did that last week, maybe, in between crazy moments. I just thought, I've just got to sow my zinnias. So here they are. I hope they do well. And then I've just got this rather comfortable, sort of overstuffed, it's lovely here. 2 benches, 2 3-seater benches and a coffee table. And tables, again, this is my love for a surface. I love to have full of pots because I think when you look out from the inside and you see a table full of interesting pots that change seasonally, you really create something special to view. And when it's raining and filthy, which it is often in this country, a table full of pretty pots is something quite special. And then the upholstery, again, I love mixing different. This is lovely Rapture and Right, which I had a little bit left over of. And then this is just a very pretty cotton and a ticking. So, and then I combine everything together to kind of create, that's a different stripe from that stripe. And then this sort of ties the 2 together. And then the big cushions in this rather pretty floral, green and white floral. So more green more green. So off we go into the garden. I'll just talk you through how it's laid out first, and then we can go have a little peek around. So I've got two big borders, quite traditional, mixed borders, we call them in this country, either side. They're about 1.6 meters wide, which is about 5 foot, I think, something like that. And they're punctuated and rather formal, quite English, punctuated by these U pyramids. I've got 4 running down this side and 3 running down this side. I lost one at the end, but I've kind of thought it's fine without it. And then I inherited this beautiful old apple tree and this incredible big Magnolia grandiflora above us, which I have a love-hate relationship with. I love it in the wintertime because it's evergreen and it really creates a magical kind of canopy. And in the summertime, I kind of hate it because it sheds its leaves all summer, literally from this moment onwards for about 3 good months. I come out here and it's littered with leaves. So that kind of drives me crazy. But the good thing about it is it keeps the conservatory really cool. And it has wonderful flowers for the night flying moths. So it's great. The flowers are great for the pollinators, which is very important. So the borders down each side of the garden are mixed with deciduous shrubs. So I've got lots of hydrangea Annabelle and hydrangea paniculata limelight and at the back. And then running down the front of the border, I've got a combination of geraniums and geum, totally tangerine, and euphorbia, and a variety of other sun-loving perennials. This is the south-facing border, so this is the sunny border. So this will, I can have all the sort of things that, like catmint and the pizza, that really love the sunshine. And this is the north-facing border. So you'll see that it's got much more sort of foliage, foxgloves and ferns, things that really appreciate a shadier aspect. So, and then again, a big hydrangea limelight and some roses that kind of, the sun sort of in the summertime sets in that corner. So the roses on this very far corner closest to the house get enough sun to perform beautifully. And then down the middle of the garden, I've got my wildflower meadow, which I am absolutely devoted to because it's so rich with nectar for the pollinators. And it's, I know I'm doing my very best for them by having this and having long grass where the insects can grow and hibernate and overwinter and get what they need in the springtime. Really makes me feel great. So, and it changes every year. So here we've got the red campion, and I threaded also through some allium along here, which is this sort of purpley onion sort of round shaped bulb. So the bees and the pollinators love this. So this is sorrel, and we've got the white daisy, which I can't remember its name right now, which is very odd because I know it so well, and fennel, and lots of grasses and buttercups. This is our native buttercup, which is something that I really hope I really am trying to cultivate the yellow flower that to run the whole way through, because I think it's so pretty and might be a weed for some, but for others it's just I don't know, it's so countrified for me, the buttercup. And then I'm also in here, I've got Verbena bonariensis. I've got that threaded through the whole of the meadow, and this will sort of dance about. It will sort of grow to this height and it'll sort of dance above, and the bees and the butterflies love it. So it's all about creating, you know, pit stops and feeding stations for lots of the bees. And you'll see here, there's a great big fat bumblebee, you know, right on the red campion here. Can you see that? So I just think it's magical. I find it, there are bees and butterflies everywhere, but I find this the most captivating. it kind of soothes my soul, as it were. So this is the meadow, and it's easy. I was lucky enough to get turf. You can buy wildflower meadow turf and just roll it out. What it really wants is very thin, porous soil, so you don't have to enrich it or prepare it at all. So it's really easy to establish and create something rather special. So I try to include a lot of this in my clients' gardens too. I'm always suggesting. And then down this side, they're just kind of going over, but in front of me on my boundary are some climbing roses, which I am particularly wedded to. Got a series of, I think there's the pink one at this end is the Generous Gardener, and then there's Madame Alfred Carrier to start with, and then this is Blairy number 2. Sadly, they are just going over, but they really do add, they kind of create this sort of lovely sense of English countryside, which I think is so important. And then here we are, so we have some foxgloves too. Again, these, you'll often see the bees going right up inside the foxgloves. Oh, there's one that's just come out. So foxgloves are great for the pollinators. So is this little geranium phaeum. This is a really early flowering perennial, which loves the shade. It's kind of peppered through the wildflower meadow too, and I just leave it because it's so early to flower. And when the pollinators first come out of hibernation, they're desperately hungry. So early flowering plants are really good to include in the garden. And then, oh yeah, I've got some bramble here too. Weed, but we put up with all things. All comers are welcome. So in the wintertime, I really try not to tidy the garden too much. I leave the leaves. There's this whole new movement about allowing the wildlife habitat to remain. So I will cut the meadow midsummer, probably early July, down to the ground, and leave it so that for a day or two to allow the seed to drop, and then I'll clear all the debris away, because if you leave the debris, it's nitrogen rich, which the wildflowers won't like because they want a thin, poor diet. So I will cart that all up and bag that and put it in my compost, and also get it collected by the green waste man, and then I leave it. Then it will grow back. It'll probably get to about this high in the summertime, by the end of the summer, and then I just leave it to overwinter. So it remains kind of tall and grassy and lovely over the winter. And I pretty much do the same to the borders. So if you come with me back behind these two screens, I've got my sort of secret hiding place back here, which is where I like to spend my time hiding from everyone else. Here I am at the back, very, very back of the garden, behind a sort of set of 3 trellis screens covered in this gorgeous evergreen climber called Trachyospermum jasminoides. And it's highly scented and great for the pollinators. I also have it climbing up the back of my house. And what I've learned over the years is that my bedroom, which is above the kitchen, is open, is exposed on 3 walls. So it's quite cold. And the track at the back of the house has created this real, in the summertime it's much cooler, and in the wintertime it's much warmer. So it really is extraordinary how plants can actually help. It's not extraordinary at all, it's a well-known fact, but plants really can help insulate buildings and keep things cool in the summer and warm in the wintertime. So that's a good reason for clothing your house in lovely climbers. And this is kind of my sort of little workstation back here. I've got lovely old metal buckets, which I'm very keen on. And these are all my bulbs from the spring that are now going over and dying back. So it looks terrible back here at the moment, but that is kind of part of the life cycle of the growing world. And in here I've got lovely herbaceous perennials and foxgloves. This is one of my favorite perennials called Naudia macedonica, and it's a scabiosa in the scabiosa family, and the bees and butterflies love it. So as they do the foxgloves. And here's, you know, more terracotta. So I've got a sort of series of terracotta pots here, some with summer flowers, some with bulbs, and then this is a summer flowering planting combination here with Nepeta, Scabiosa, and then Acamilla mollis and a little geum. And my compost bin, which is very good, and just a little table, and my shed, of course. Not very beautiful, but you know, you have to have a place where the ugliness can be, really. So if you come with me, we'll go back down this side of the garden, the sunny side, and we can look at things from this view and this angle. So this is my focal point, which is my lovely basket, and it's a wicker basket. It's vintage, and a lovely antique dealer who I get lots of my clients' furniture from thought that I should have it as a reward for being such a good patron. And it's a great harvesting basket, and in the spring it was full of tulips, and now I've self-sown or sown in situation some little seedlings of Nigella, which is Love and a Mist, which is a sweet little summer flowering annual, so I'm hopeful that that's going to kind of explode in this frothy sea of sort of blue haze in a little moment's time. And then this border, again, it's got some lovely roses in here. So this is Bosco Bell, which is so pretty. And then this little one here is I think this is, I don't know what that is, actually. I couldn't tell you. But that's Bosco Bell, and this, look at this, this is so pretty. Look at the color of this. I think this one is Charles de Mille, just going over. So beautiful, but I might be wrong. I can't really, I'm not very good on my roses. I mean, I am, but I'm not. And then again, climbing roses along the boundary. This is a lovely big, another member of the Scabious family, Scabiosa. This is Cephalaria gigantea, and this gets lovely and tall and has creamy colored pincushion flowers like the Naudia behind the screens, and the bees love it. Again, full of, look at this little moth on here. You've got to come and zoom in on this. I mean, that is so exciting to me. So we're providing nectar for that little friend. And again, my yew pyramids, there was box in the garden, boxwood, but it had the blight and the caterpillar, and so I bit the bullet and took it all out and put the yew in, and I have never regretted that decision because it's absolutely maintenance free. You have to clip it, of course, but there's no spraying, there's nothing to do except for enjoy it. And in the winter time, when all this will have died back, the yew pyramids are the thing that kind of hold the whole garden together. So it's the form in and amongst the chaos, and they kind of disappear in the summertime a bit, but in the wintertime they really come to their own. And I love a clip shape in a garden. I think if it's all frothy and pretty, it lacks a certain amount of, you know, style and form, and these provide that. So they're really, I wouldn't be without them. So I might pick a flower or two and take you inside, and maybe I'll show you how to condition cut flowers from the garden, particularly wildflowers, because if you don't condition them, they go over really quickly. They just wilt. Oh, look, here's a lovely big fat bumblebee. The most interesting thing about the meadow is this is red clover. Do you see that? There are so many different varieties of bumblebees, which I'm only learning about now. That one is very yellow and not black. You know, sometimes you see them and they're very black and white, but that one is just kind of a yellowy one. When I pick the wildflowers, which I tend to do, I'll pick to a set of leaves. So this is again the red campion, which has gone over, but I quite like this. I think the seed head is just as pretty as the flower. So I'll pick to a pair of buds here. And then for some reason I always turn it upside down. I don't know why. No gathering, no lovely, beautiful basket, sadly. But so, and then I'll just I'll pick at a set of leaves and turn it upside down. I feel like it kind of prevents any of the goodness from washing down the stem. And then here's some geum. This is totally tangerine, which you saw inside. I've got a lot of it inside. And I grow this because I love orange so much. You can see it's sort of slightly running down the border. It's just going over, but I plant things in my garden that complement the colors in my house. So the orange of the geum really works well in my drawing room and in my kitchen. And I think it makes sense to me to have, and I do ask my clients when when we're discussing color and color combinations, what the rooms are going to be decorated in that look onto the garden. And it's a really lovely way to have that sort of link between the outside and the in, just having one or two colors that complement each other both inside and out. So I always ask that question. See, here's a very different bumblebee here. That one's much more yellow. I mean, look at them. Woo! Okay, so I'm going to pick a geum as well. And again, I go right down to a pair of leaves. I love the fennel too. Don't you love the fennel? So I've got a bit of fennel running down the border too, which I think is so frothy and pretty. And the flowers of fennel are great for the pollinators. So yeah. And I love how it kind of ebbs and flows and kind of undulates the whole way down. I think it creates a really kind of, there's a lot of movement. And when there's a little gentle breeze, it kind of, it's very captivating. So maybe we'll go inside and do a little bit of flower arranging and tablescaping. That sounds like a good idea. So I'm coming back inside. And I'd love to step by step talk you through how I lay a table, because I think it's something that I really enjoy doing. And but before we get embroiled in that, I'm just going to boil the kettle because I want to teach you how to condition the flowers. So I'll boil the kettle and then we'll come on to conditioning and we'll lay the table together. So I always start with an underlay because I think a cloth on top of a hard table is a particularly luxurious feeling. So I have this very patchy old underlay, and I think you can get them exactly to the same dimension of your table. So yeah, this goes down first. I love to add lots and lots of layers and texture and fabric to the table. And I think it looks really lovely when it's layered up. And then I've got this lovely old bit of Indian fabric that I've had forever, which I love to kind of put on top as well. So again, creating just extra layers, and it's kind of reversible. So sometimes I use this side, and I might use this side today because it's so bright and cheery. And my tablecloth, you can see, it doesn't quite fit the length of the table, but I really don't think that matters. I feel like it's all about, not making it too perfect. I don't know. I feel like our lives are so concerned about being perfect that when it's not, I don't think it matters. That's my philosophy anyway. So that's the sort of layering, the first 2-3 layers. And then I think it's fun to add a mat as well. Why not? So laying the table for 6. And again, color-wise, I think yellow and green is so spring-like and pretty. We're in May, and I think yellow and green just feel kind of right. So they go on. I love to entertain, but I do it in a very relaxed way. There'll be food on the counter, which I will have. I do like to cook, so it's very rare that I buy food for a dinner party. But it does take time, and when you're sort of busy gardening, I find it's hard to come up with the right amount of time to do all these things. So I spread them out, but I do nonetheless. And I think a lunch party is often one of the nicest ways. And so spoiling theirs, it just feels rather a little bit naughty and a little bit decadent having lunch with friends. But anyway, so I've got my tablecloth and now my sort of Indian patchworky cloth on top. And then the next thing are these lovely white ceramic plates, which I think are really lovely and fun. Quite chunky, but great. And what I really like to do is layer. So I also have these lovely antique plates. So I'll put a stack of them on the table, even if we don't use them. I'll always put a stack on the table because I just think a stack of lovely old plates looks so pretty. And I've got some pretty green ones as well, so they'll go on top. Each one is different, which I find so kind of beguiling. I just find them so pretty and colourful and delicate. And I think, again, having some old things makes it table look a bit more special. And then I have these lovely stripy napkins, which I think are so spring-like. And again, they don't, there's a bit of yellow and green in them, but I just think they're so sweet. They've got sort of daffodils and again, they don't really match, but I think they all kind of go. So I quite like a very eclectic table that is colourful and bright. And yeah, so they're here. And the stripes are all going in different directions too, which is rather amusing. Clearly laundry. I don't know who's in charge. So that's that. And then I might do the flowers next. So I arranged these this morning, conditioned them, and I think when people arrive, I think it's really nice to have it, rather full and busy. And then if it's too much and you can't really see one another, what I might do is I might just sort of move them to the side. But I think when people arrive, it's really nice to sort of have the vision that you want of the table. So I have these crazy stripy cups, which again, I think are just so fun and add another level of kind of pattern. I love the stripes. So there's so many different patterns here. There's stripes and stripes, the floral, more stripes, some daisies, and to me it's beginning to really feel interesting and there's a lot of detail which I think makes it a nice, really outstanding place to be. And then I've got more color, I've got these rather gorgeous pink and orange Marani glasses. And I think they add, again, just more pattern and more color to the table. So I would probably serve wine in those and water in these. And then cutlery, and I have some rather fun bamboo handled cutlery, which I think is, again, a lovely contrast, to have a bit of weightiness to the table, not all light and pretty, and but the brown I think is very pleasing to the overall design of the table. And tablescaping really is a thing, isn't it? I think it's almost as fun as coming up with the guest list and cooking for your friends. I think laying a table or setting a table, as you say in the States, is a really lovely thing to do. I get a lot of satisfaction and joy from you know, sitting at a beautifully laid table, but also doing it myself. So I think it's a very nice thing to do. And don't you think the brown goes so well? I think the brown really sort of makes it feel less kind of girly, as it were. Then I've got these crazy glug jugs up here, which I have to carefully extract from this ridiculous setup I have. But they are my water jugs, so I'll fill these up. And I love to put lemon and fresh mint in the water. I think that's just a very simple, nice way of making the water, or even fresh cucumber. I think fresh cucumber in water is a really nice, tiny extra treat, which I think is well worth doing. So that will go there. So yeah, I think that's pretty much how I would do it. I would have serving dishes down here at each end, and I think it's really nice to have everything on platters that you can pass to one another around the table. I think it creates conversation and camaraderie, and it's a nice way. And then you can take what you want and the amount you want, and you know, there's sort of no pressure, as it were, to, if you're presented with a plated up plate of food, it's often difficult to sort of get exactly what you want to eat. So yeah, so I think that's kind of a joyful way to lay the table. So now that the table's pretty much ready to go, I think it'd be really nice to just briefly walk you through conditioning flowers and why it's important to do so and how you do it. And it's very simple, but basically I've boiled the kettle and I will now pour that into just a very bog standard Pyrex jug, just a couple of inches deep. And then I'll have something to put the conditioned flowers in. It's important that they transition from the boiled water into their final resting home. So this is just a little green bottle which I collect. I've got lots of lovely old bottles here which I think are really fun, and I like adding those into the table as well as the sort of bigger arrangements. I think it's fun to kind of have varying heights of flowers on the table. And then I also think it's nice to add some candles, which I'll do at the end. So here we are. We've got our boiling water and we've got our freshly picked little blooms, and it doesn't take long for them to start going over. So you have to, I do it quite quickly, and I often do it while I'm in the garden. I'll set this all up and with my cup of coffee in the morning on Saturday, and I'll condition them right away. So it's really important, so this is, you can see it's already looking a bit tired, is to take any of the green leaves off the stem, and then you plunge the stem into the boiled water, into the boiling water, cut below the water level, count for a few seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then in it goes into its jug. Again, remove the green, and it's a good idea. I learned recently not to pull the green leaves off the stem. It's far better to break the green leaf off, because by stripping the green leaf down or pulling it down, it often weakens the integrity of the stem. So it's better just to twist the leaves off the stem and not pull them down. And then that goes in there. And then here's a very beautiful bit of grass that I picked from the meadow, which I absolutely adore. So again, just cut the foliage off, the leaves rather, below. If it's slightly woodier, I would count for, instead of 5 to 7 seconds, I might count to 10 to 12 seconds. And this is slightly, just ever so slightly woodier. So, but see, that to me is very pleasing, very simple. There are 3 different things in there. And then I've got the seed heads from the red campion, which again I really like the look of. It's different from the flower itself, but I think it's equally pleasing. And then I kind of approximate the height of it. I think I need it a bit shorter than that, so I'll cut it a bit shorter out of the water, and then I'll cut it to, I hope, its final height in the water. And there the air bubbles are rising, so I know that this is working. And it's good to cut flowers on the angle, the stems on the angle, because then they have more surface area to draw up the water, to keep them happy for longer. I have a lot of good gardening gear because I'm, at it all the time. And Milwaukee, which is a Japanese brand, make these flower scissors, and they're wonderful. They hold their sharpness for a long time. They're very, very pleasing on the hand and to handle. And yeah, they're ergonomically good. And yeah, I like the brand a lot. You can see I've got a pile of them here, the Milwaukee with the yellow handles, and they're really, really, and they keep their edge really well. So they're good. They're good to. They stay sharp basically. So I'm a great fan, and I also have their gloves too, the Milwaukee gloves. They're really good too. So there we go. So that's just a little, and I might add a few of those to the table as well, threaded down the middle. And then I think no table is complete, even if it's lunch in the daytime, without a candle and a candlestick. So these are lovely Astier candlesticks, French, and with great big yellow. And again, like flowers, I think candles should be at varying heights. I think you want some tall and some short to create a sort of gentle sense of movement. And I don't think they have to be set out equally. I don't think they have to match. I don't think they have to be, in any way, shape or form perfect. I just think choose them. And I would never in a million squillion years ever have or use or choose a white candle when you can have a yellow candle or a pink candle or an orange candle. So I think color, again, I have banged on about it a lot, but I think, that is pure joy to me. And with the green of the glug jug and the plates, I just feel like it's just an extra layer of prettiness. So there we go, the table. Homeworthy, thank you very much for coming. I think you've taken up quite enough of my time. I need to get back to work and back to my garden. The sun is shining. Thank you for coming. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.